All right. Hi, everybody. So Brian and I are here today to kind of talk about our upcoming workshop and program that's starting in June. Right, Brian?
Yes.
Yes. So we were talking after kind of just seeing each other's posts again on LinkedIn, and I noticed that he started consulting. I've been consulting in my business, Växa Collective, for over 6 years now. And Brian and I worked together before I started my business. We were very close, shared a wall of our cubes, loved working as a team. And so when I saw he was consulting, I reached back out and said, hey, let's chat and see if there are any ways to collaborate, right? And so Brian started talking about the working genius, which I've heard of and I hadn't taken it before, but it's a really cool system and type guide for how do you work best, what energizes you the most at work, right? Do you want to kind of talk about what got you excited about Working Genius and what resonates so much, Brian?
Yeah, I really love Working Genius. I came across it when I was going through EOS, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Some of you listening might be familiar with EOS. We use it as a tool for our team, and I was a little bit skeptical at first because there's so many tools out there, so many personality assessments, and I just kind of was like, do we need one more thing? Have we really cracked the code of how to understand ourselves as team players and how we do our work? Is there one more thing that we need to add to the tool belt? But this was actually the one more thing that you do need to have in your tool belt. I understood quickly that it really is not a personality assessment in the same way that the Myers-Briggs is kind of a personality assessment, or even things like the Enneagram can be used as personality type assessments. It is really at its core a productivity tool. Mm-hmm. And it's a tool to understand how you personally contribute to work and how teams work together, and also how work gets done start to finish, and goes through all the different phases of work. And when I understood it that way and saw the results applied to my own contribution to work and how I work with my teammates, it really was a game changer for me. I've said before, and I don't mean it hyperbolically at all, it was life-changing. I began to understand myself better. I was able to let go of guilt I had over things that I felt badly about myself with when it came to work. And it was just a really powerful thing that I was able to go through, and I knew that I wanted to be able to share it with others and help other people understand it.
Well, I am excited for you to be able to dive into this in your work, because being a consultant is so fun, and having lots of tools in your tool belt is really important, right? You don't want to be a handyman who only shows up with a hammer, right? I just came up with that metaphor just now.
Love it.
Yeah, or handy person, I should say. Any gender could be a good handy
That's
person.
Right.
I know I'm not a handy person.
People.
Handy people.
Yeah.
So what we decided to do was blend the Working Genius, and anybody who joins our program, it's going to be 6 weeks. We're going to meet weekly on Wednesdays, except for the 4th of July, because everybody's kind of doing family and friend stuff then. And we're going to meet for 2 hours each time and cover in the first week the Working Genius. So you'll take the assessment ahead of time, get your results, and we'll cover that. So Brian's going to lead that session mostly, since he's the real expert in that area. And then we're going to take a deep dive into kind of an intensive of my 5 pillars of successful leadership. So if you are a manager or an aspiring manager, somebody who sees yourself as a leader, because remember, anyone can be a leader at any level. You could be an entry-level person in your workplace, and if you are, serving others and role modeling behaviors and performance that, your team wants to see, you're a leader. That's what that means. So if you're one of those people who wants to sharpen those skills as a manager and as a leader, using the Working Genius and being able to take it back to your team is going to be an amazing opportunity where you're going to have that new tool in your tool belt as a handy person, right? And then we're going to each week after that, the following 5 weeks, cover each pillar of my successful leadership system. So this framework covers things like emotional intelligence and those 5 components of emotional intelligence that are so important to practice, especially as a leader. It's one of the most important things you need to have to be successful and high performing on your team, to be an emotionally intelligent person. Then after we understand ourself and our emotional intelligence, that self-awareness side, then we dive into what drives your team members. So you got to understand yourself, yes, but it cannot just stop there. So understanding then the working genius of yourself and then your team. So we know that Brian has wonder and galvanizing as his working geniuses. And so then there are people on the team that he works on, or teams that I've worked on, who are going to have other types. And it's great to have that like diversity on your team, so that each person is driven by different things, or is their genius in a project or system that you're working through. And then pillar 3 is my favorite, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this term. It's called psychological safety. So cultivating that culture of psychological safety, where people can bring their full selves to work. They can be vulnerable and take risks without fear of retaliation and opportunities being taken from them or being humiliated. And then the 4th pillar is all about communicating clear expectations. Working Genius fits perfectly into that, around lots of things, like making sure that you communicate differently to different people depending on what their geniuses are. And then the last one is managing performance accountability. A lot of that is taking responsibility of your own behaviors, but then also, as a good manager, how do you hold other people accountable? So Working Genius is going to fit in and integrate into all of these. So it'll be like a framework within a framework. So I'm really excited to lead this with Brian, right?
I am really, really excited. When we were talking about, your 5 pillars, and then going through and thinking of where the geniuses line up and how the model works, it really fit together so perfectly. And all the things that you want to be able to do as a leader, and all of the ways that you want to be able to help inspire and lead your team, this tool really does help in every single one of those areas, particularly in understanding your team members as people, who they are, how they're wired. That's so important. And I think it's really important, especially because, everyone kind of has a different level that they, amount of time that they've been around. And one thing that I got kind of stuck with, and I recognized it really quickly as I did my Working Genius, I realized that my geniuses were aligned to kind of a certain type of work that frequently isn't found when you're a brand new person on a team, or when you're when you're just coming into an organization. And so it's so important for leaders to care about kind of how their people are wired, because it helps you understand and recognize that player who's maybe newer to the team, and maybe just by nature of the role that they have, they're not getting the type of work that fulfills them and that they feel that they're really contributing their full self with. And it can be so easy to lose potential, really high performers in that area when they, just by the nature of their work, we can't always change all of those things. We can't just make up jobs for people. The work still has to get done. But if you're applying your 5 pillars and this Working Genius together, you might be able to pick out those people who, are really high performers, before they have the opportunity really to be able to show it in the work they're doing and are assigned.
Yes, I love that. And one of the things that attracted me to this idea of us chatting about collaboration was a post you made on LinkedIn, where you said it was it changed your world. That really sold it to me, because that's how I felt about Myers-Briggs when I discovered it, learned about myself, and then had friends take it. It was this aha, light bulb went off above my head, metaphorically, where I started to really get, oh my God, that's why I have conflicts with certain people, or why we have very different perspectives on the exact same situation or topic. Yeah. And so what's cool about Working Genius also is, since it's not a personality assessment, it's your geniuses of how you like to approach a project and how you work on a team. It fits nicely with other tools. So if you're using Predictive Index or Enneagram or Myers-Briggs or StrengthsFinder, it's actually a great complement. They're not opposing. They're not, I hate when people have to pick one and they act like all the other ones are evil. It's a great complement, and they measure different things. So just like when you go to the doctor, they don't just take your height and say, okay, you're 5'2". Well, any 5'2"ers out there like me, it's okay, there's more to me than just being short, right? They're going to take your blood pressure and check in your ears and nose, and they're going to take your weight, probably your lots of other blood tests and things like that. So they measure multiple things. That's why it's great to just have another test or another tool to learn a little bit more about yourself, and that gains self-awareness in your life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You just took the assessment. You just did the Working Genius assessment. What were what was your profile?
Mine are galvanizing. So that's the cheerleader, you, kind of getting people excited about an idea, influencing others to jump on board and participate. And then invention, which totally lines up as well. So invention is the step after wonder, I've learned. So invention is okay, we've got these cool ideas and brainstorms. Now it's whiteboarding time. Let's start unpacking what this could look like before we actually discern and start editing ideas out. What could be, and what's the systems? How do we actually create solutions? And I love that side. I once led a meeting at the place we used to work at, and at the end of it, after like whiteboarding this whole project, somebody said, that was the most productive meeting I've ever been in. And that is something I'll never forget. It literally made my year. Like, it was such a compliment.
And that's exactly when people are spending as much time as they can in their geniuses, that's the energy that people walk away from. And it happens at every stage of work. And so that's, that is why it is so important as leaders to be able to understand everyone on your team has something like that they can do to contribute to. And it looks different. And it's, it happens in different phases. But when you understand as a leader that everyone has that ability to be able to bring that type of energy where people walk away and go, man, like, I don't think I could have led that meeting, but that was like the most productive thing because the right person was leading it, bringing the right energy to it, and we were able to get through it all. It's one of those things that just brings you so much joy. And it's like you go home, you had a great day, and then you can come back and do the exact same thing all over again. And you have energy and fulfillment from it.
Yes. So we're excited to have people join us. This will all be virtual. We'll send out all the information you need, like the link to the assessment and the Zoom information, all of that after you are signed up. And so, spread this around, get your team involved, invite friends, invite, partners, family members, whatever, because anybody can benefit from this. And because it's virtual, we're leading it from Kansas City, Missouri, and Grand Rapids, Michigan, respectively. Anybody at any point, as long as you want to tune in live or watch it later, I guess we'd love for people to be on live. You can sign up and participate in this program. So sign up now. It starts June 4th. And so we're pumped to get this excited and launched.
We're excited and looking forward to it. Hope you join us.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.